A very good evening. You're right in time for business today with Rona Nahabwe together with Winnie Wiyinza Nakauchi for the sign language interpretation. We have a lot lined up for you tonight, but before we get right into it, here's a quick look at the top stories. Business today, the meat and beef industry has sustained a decline in demand and supply. About 700 cows slaughtered during the Feast of Sacrifice. More in business today, Dutch animal nutritional giants, the whose launch first aquafeed plant. Investment incentives requested to support implementation. 1.2 trillion shillings facility aligned to multi-sector linkages inspired by oil and gas industry. Aviation to set in 2 to 3 years with 50 passengers at peak per hour. You're welcome once again. This is Business Today. Now, the meat and beef industry has sustained a decline in demand and supply for animals during the Feast of Sacrifice. At the city abattoir, about 700 cows have been slaughtered just below the 1,000 anticipated mark. A slight surge in prices has been attributed to a combination of factors, including a fall in animal stock impacted by climate change drought in the cattle corridor. Let's have a look. In a surprising turn of events, the city abattoir at Old Port Bell Road has reported a drop in the number of cows slaughtered compared to the previous year. The annual figures reveal that only 400 to 700 cows have been slaughtered, a sharp contrast to the higher numbers witnessed in recent times. The decline in numbers has left meat sector industrialists disoriented, as the abattoir has historically been a crucial hub for meat production, supplying local markets and businesses.
You know, we expected people to buy a lot, but I think our economy is not doing well. Actually, I think even the donors, because we normally get donors from Turkey, we get donors from those Islamic countries. I think what happened in Turkey has affected. Remember, we had a very serious earthquake in Turkey. That one, I think it has affected the donors.
Well, the situation has not been all that good or bad, because first we expected more cows to be here, and the turn-up was a bit low, and the price of meat has a bit risen up. Peacefully, we've tried to move around with the situation.
Livestock traders have been facing significant difficulties, which are impeding market operations. One primary concern raised is the high cost of fuel, which directly impacts the transportation of animals. With fuel prices reaching unprecedented levels, businesses that heavily rely on transport are caught up as profit margins shrink.
Rise in hikes in prices of fuel, for example. So majorly where the vehicle used to use, like for example 500,000, and you find that it takes 800 big trucks, like 1 million. So they will increase on the cost of each animal, given where it comes from. For example, an animal from Barara to Kampala, they charge 100,000. So from Mulubale or Isingiro, they charge 130 to 120 per each animal, which translates into the high prices of meat.
Today, the situation has not really changed. It's like it's not an easy day. On normal days, we slaughter around 200 cows, but we expected to slaughter 400 cows. Yet in the previous years, we would slaughter over 1,000 cows, but because of the scars of the COVID-19, Ugandans no longer have money, so they don't buy meat, yet we have not increased the price that much.
The price of a goat has risen from 200,000 to 300,000 Ugandan shillings, while cows now cost between 1.5 and 1.7 million Ugandan shillings. The price hike is due to several underlying factors, primarily the outbreak of foot and mouth disease and ongoing drought conditions in the cattle corridor in districts like Kazo that have been quarantined in the last 2 years.
12,000, because 12,000, 13 there. We in other usual days we sell like 11,000 per kilo.
This is another year. There has been an increment in prices of cows and goats and sheep that are always slaughtered in big numbers. As you may be well aware, this Eid is where they slaughter a lot of animals. Majorly those rich Muslims, they slaughter animals and give meat to the most vulnerable people, in terms of offerings.
The situation is really bad because we expected traders to come and buy. But as you can see, the meat is still on the stalls. We expected to sell the meat at 13,000, but those coming in want to buy the meat at 10,000. And this is because the Muslim community slaughtered their own cows, goats and sheep, so businesses are stuck.
As the Muslim community celebrates Eid Adha, around 400 to 700 cows have been slaughtered within the city abattoir compared to the previous year, indicating a shortage in the supply of meat in Uganda. Naomi Mtumba, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Well, Eid Mubarak to the Muslim community. Hope you had a good one. Moving on, statistics indicate that Ugandans like to eat fish even more than the neighboring countries. Construction of a high-tech aquafeed factory in Jeru by Dehus, a parent company to Coudis, has been set rolling. The plant will produce approximately 50,000 metric tons of fish feed per year for the East African market and should be operational towards the second half of next year. Approximately 10 to 20 million US dollars will be injected and about 10,000 jobs will be created. Here's a look at the report. The aquaculture industry has shown promising growth in recent years, but needs affordable and reliable quality feeds to further develop. Feeds are currently imported. Dehus, a Dutch-based animal nutrition giant, will produce feed with a shorter and flexible supply chain. But its real impact on employment will be with the fish farmers, suppliers, as it will replace, import and still source raw materials such as maize, cassava, soya and others.
With Coudis Dehus for many years, talking to them about a possible investment for Uganda, and we are so pleased that it had finally come to fruition. All the talks we had about how Uganda is such a fertile country, fish feeds are something that is really needed as an import substitution. Then secondly, what Coudis Dehus can bring with this factory is enormous opportunities for our women and youth, because they are going to have to grow tons and tons of soya. And I think those ones who have land now, I could only recommend that they would invest in growing soya, as this factory needs a lot of soya. And why we are probably chosen over some of our neighboring countries is because Uganda has an excellent climate.
The general manager of Dehus Uganda stated that Dehus will build on Coudis' reputation for consistent high-quality feed. Soon, with local feed production, the business case for fish farmers should improve significantly.
Because there's more and more mouths to feed, so we decided to build an aqua feed plant here in Jeru to feed the aquaculture industry around Lake Victoria. Uganda has great papers for it. Basically, it has a conducive climate, which means that you can grow fish all year long instead of in seasons, and it also is incredibly fertile, so we can get nearly all the raw materials from around here. We will bring state-of-the-art technology. We will bring our expertise and experience from our global experience, and we will bring Dutch innovation.
He further adds that the factory will cost 10 to 20 million US dollars approximately, and they hope for government to provide incentives to support the development.
Basically, to be competitive for fish farmers, we need to bring lower cost feed, and to be competitive with Kenya as well, because they are building aquafeed plants there, we need to bring the cost down. So if the incentives bring the cost down, it means that we can bring the price down, which means the farmers win and Uganda wins. So we need their help. We also need help with VAT, because VAT for us is a cost and we cannot recover it. And it means that it becomes a cost for the farmer.
The mayor for Jeru municipality, Mr. Yasin Chaze, believes that the biggest beneficiaries should be the host community, banking on several job opportunities.
Younger generation who have been crying over the jobs, this is going to save those people the younger people who have been looking for a job. I know, as I've been told, that this factory is going to create 10,000 jobs I know very well the first beneficiaries will be the people of Unjeru municipality.
From an interaction with a fish farmer, the factory is expected to be a relief as they have been spending approximately $1,000 on importation of aqua feeds that even take long. Thus, there is expression of hope for aquaculture beyond Lake Victoria as the investors strive to make this a model farm.
Having a lot of challenges as fish farmers without having enough feed and good quality feed that led us to importation of the feed. Currently, since the company started, it started in 2006, and since then it has been a very big challenge for Sunfish Farm to access good feed for our fish. We've been importing our feeds from across the world. One of the countries that we've been importing the feed from is Brazil, and then cow dyes, and then the other ones we've been getting it from Mauritius. And all these have been really a challenge to us farmers because you have to take almost 4 months for you to access the feed, and this makes us to have a very big inventory and a lot of cash for us to be able to keep our stock available. So it's a great pleasure today.
The host brings a combination of global experience and expertise together with a background in Dutch agriculture innovation, while expanding the investment footprint in South Africa, Egypt, and recently with modern factories in Ghana and Ivory Coast. Renana Habwe, Smart 24 TV, Business Today. Well, still on the big day for the Muslim community, the capital's transport industry has recorded low-key business during the Islamic Feast of Sacrifice, popularly known as Eid al-Adha. Transport fares for the buses across the greater Kampala metropolitan area were cut by 33% as the people respected the holiday. Although the industry seems collectively affected, mass transit handlers have settled for the bigger challenge. Peterson Mumbele reports.
Although Eid al-Adha celebrations are still going on, transportation expenses have not changed. However, because few people came to Kampala city centre to conduct business, taxi drivers observed low business.
Abantu batono nnyo okuvira ddala ku makya kubanga abantu tebazze mu kibuga naddala abasiraamu bangi.
People are very few in the centre because they are celebrating Eid al-Adha with their families. Fewer people were spotted on the majority of the streets, including Ben Chwanuka. Affected were the border cyclists.
Now that today is Eid al-Adha, we've just come to new or old tax park here to assess the transport fares in the transport sector. But what we've just realized is that they never slash the transport fares, let's say from Kampala to Mukono, because even the price of oil was never slashed. However, if you look at the entire situation, the number of people who turned up in Kampala city, of course, they are very few. You can only see shops being opened, but people who are coming to buy or people who are using transport to go back to their destinations are very few. But in any way, this has not affected the transport, the entire transport sector, because the few people who are going, there's a few people who are going to pay the taxis or pay transport to get back to their homes. However, the biggest problem is that they take long. These taxes and coasters, if my camera person can just show around, they take long to get full, and they take long to wait for people who are coming to fill up all these coasters. So this is one of the biggest problems that the entire transport sector is facing. However, much as we have few people in the city, but still they'll have to go back to towns, or they'll have to go back to their places. It being Eid al-Adha, it did not give them chance, very many people, to come to town to come and see or to come and do some own businesses, because people are in mosques trying to pray or trying to celebrate Eid al-Adha. So this is the situation here in Kampala city in as far as the transport sector is concerned.
Despite the fact that the entire industry is untouched, information shows that individuals who drive larger vehicles are more adversely affected than those who are driving smaller ones.
Ogenda okwesiŋŋaana enjawulo mu mafuta eba ntono nnyo gye tunywa. Owa Costa atwala abantu bangi, owa taxi ntwala abantu 14, Costa etwala abantu 34.
There are differences in fuel consumptions. A Costa consumes more than a taxi, and they take different numbers. Eid al-Adha is an Islamic festival celebrated in Uganda with great enthusiasm. It is celebrated to commemorate the sacrifice of Prophet Ibrahim and his son Ismail. On this day, Muslims gather for prayers, exchange gifts and greetings, and slaughter animals in accordance with the Islamic rituals. People of all ages enjoy the festival atmosphere of the holiday, and it is an important occasion for families to come together and celebrate. Pedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Let's now shift our focus to the Kabalega International Airport. Completion of the 1.2 trillion shillings Kabalega International Airport, formerly known as Kabale International Airport in Hoima District, has suffered delays and is currently at 91% complete. This is pending handover in October. Kabalega Industrial Park, that will host the airport industries under 50-kilometer free zone, will need approximately 40 million euros for the second phase as its infrastructure tends towards boosting multi-sector linkages to the agriculture, tourism, as the oil and gas is a finite resource. In a recent cabinet decision, Kabale International Airport was renamed Kabalega in honor to Omkama Kabalega, as requested by the people of Bunyoro. The development of the Kabalega International Airport, undertaken by SBC Uganda Limited in a joint venture with SBI International Holdings AG, commenced on 18th April 2018, funded by the United Kingdom Exports Finance at 85% and 15% by the Government of Uganda. Amos Bulisa, the Public Relations Officer of SBC Uganda Limited, the contractors of the Kabalega International Airport, says it was supposed to be completed early in February, but disruptions by torrential rains and COVID-19 affected the progress, especially with limited deployment of 25 people in observation of social distance, and have been given more 8 months to complete the work and deliver the airport. Currently, the construction works stand at 91%.
We should have delivered this project by February 2023. But as usual in construction industry, there are natural claims. When say it rains, you cannot touch the ground. So at the time when you have not finished the project, you have to claim that time. Again, the other time, you remember when COVID came in, we had to reduce on the number of workers. In an area we used to deploy 50 workers, we had to start deploying 25 workers. This also affected our site progress. So we now claim the certain period that was lost during COVID, and we are given an extra period of 8 months. So we are expected to deliver the project in end of September or early October this year.
Workers had previously laid down tools due to lack of payment, prompting the contractor to hold construction work as government failed to allocate more than 126 billion shillings required for completion. Petroleum Authority's Gloria Sebikali says oil and gas resources are finite and the airport will help boost exports through sector linkages like agriculture and tourism.
We had to initiate a negotiation. The experts picked the data from all the sources like Bureau of Statistics, because changes like in a month, every time and again the prices change, but the data is there. So that is the money we had to go on table with the expertise, the government officials in the Ministry of Works, and we agreed on a certain amount, and that amount was paid, and then the work commenced. But the amount that was agreed on was paid, and the work again resumed. We are working normally without any other interruption.
We look at expanding the airport maybe during the second phase to handle passengers. That is another benefit that comes to the country, and I think that will also decongest the main city so that we don't have everyone flying into the country using Entebbe. So I think as a country, infrastructure is the bedrock for development, and when you have durable infrastructure, it supports development across the different sectors of the economy. And that's very important because we know oil and gas is a finite resource, meaning that oil and gas resources after some time may get exhausted. But if you have infrastructure that's boosting the other productive sectors, tourism, agriculture, manufacturing, and supporting industrialization, then you're increasing the potential to increase the GDP of the country.
As per the refinery to be premised within Kabalega Industrial Park, delivery is set for 2027 or 2028, and Sarah Banage, the lead corporate affairs at UNOX, stresses the significance of the petrochemicals industry.
You are definitely going to get byproducts from the refining of crude. In fact, some countries don't even have the crude. All they do is they set up a refinery, because from the refinery, the byproducts that come out, the petrochemicals that come out, lead to a number of petrochemical industries. These industries is your everyday. Does any of you, are you wearing rubber shoes? Are you wearing rubber on your shoes? That kind of rubber, the rubber we use, the tires, the paint in your homes, the inputs into your paint. So when you wake up in the morning and your plastic alarm goes off, you're already talking petrochemical industries. The things that come out from refining crude and then the outputs of that all go into making the petrochemicals. The
cargo terminal building limited capacity passenger, which will be receiving 50 passengers at peak per hour, and air-ground lighting system, among other infrastructure, are between 89 to 90% complete. The runway, measuring 3.5 kilometers long and 45 meters wide, is 99% complete. Nana Habwe, Smart 24 TV, Business Today. While Uganda's vanilla production has been on the rise, global demand for this product has soared, placing tremendous pressure on the farmers and thus the production of low-quality output onto the market. Nevertheless, the government, through the Minister of State of Agriculture, Honorable Fred Bueno Chakulaga, has come out to address such challenges in the subsector. Brunia Katsime on this one.
Despite its fluctuating prices on the international market, vanilla has proved to be a profitable crop for farmers, according to MyIF's 2020 report. With about 5 million shillings to establish and manage an acre of vanilla plantation, a net profit of about 35 million shillings is expected from 450 plants if sold at a premium of 40,000 shillings. In spite of the math, quality in the country's vanilla industry remains critical in quest for position in the heart of competition.
It has also led to a number of serious issues, including theft of vanilla beans, robbery, murders, premature harvesting, and trade in poor quality beans, premature beans, poor processing, illicit trade against a backdrop of absent or weak regulatory framework, hence compromising the quality of Uganda's vanilla and negating our competitiveness. This has destabilized the subsector as farmers looking to secure a return on their investment before it is stolen have resorted to early harvesting. People are sleeping in their gardens trying to protect their vanilla.
Secondly, vanilla has a market which is a cobweb. It doesn't have a stable market. 2 years back, vanilla was around 300,000 per kilogram. But when you go to Katerina now, it is at 30,000. What happened last season is that farmers cut coffee and planted vanilla when it was at 300,000 per kilogram. Because the prices depreciated to 30,000 per kilogram, they also cut vanilla and started planting coffee. This is how we are not directing our farmers right.
Vanilla cultivation has provided a valuable source of income for many small-scale farmers, empowering them and improving their livelihoods. One of key factors driving Uganda's vanilla success is the active involvement of local farmers and government to confront challenges inhibiting quality. This is expected to open up further opportunities to expand presence on the international market.
The government of Uganda, through my ministry, and working in partnership with the local governments, processors, and key promoters of vanilla, including the Association of Vanilla Exporters of Uganda, VANEX, and the Catholic Relief Services, the Vines Project, is committed to sustaining the quality gains made over the past several years. And that's why we keep coming back here, because we want to maintain quality. Quality of
risk for the long-term relationship is actually better to focus on one crop, be specialized in this crop, and produce higher quantities. Regarding the market volatility, yes, this is one of the only crop in the world that left China behind, not only by its technology, but also by stability. Coffee, for example, much more stable and growing demand every year all over the world. And vanilla, fortunately, because it's controlled by one country at the moment, 70%, that is really, really rare. We don't have anything like this in any other crop almost all over the world.
Concerted efforts are being made to enhance domestic production and establish sustainable market linkages. Through knowledge, improved farming practices, and global partnerships, Uganda's market is set to become a hub for premium vanilla production, delivering quality output to the worldwide market and veto leaders such as Madagascar. Bronia Katsime, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Business Today will now take a short break, but we will return with more. Stick around.
Smart 24, driving business.
Cooking oil like no other makes your meal so sweet and scrumptious. The taste of Uganda, yeah, the taste of Uganda.
Family. He must have a maid because at our home we do not work.
Conductor Masao.
What? Obadde olobye ku ssimu?
Yamunange anti yo TV enkolera.
Nyumira omulembe omupya ogujjudde ebisanyusa omuli emikutu gya TV egisukka mu 8 n'egya radio nga kwotadde ne zifirimu ng'osinziirira wonna w'oli. Genda mu App Store oteeke app ya GOTV channels ku ssimu yo olwo onyumirwe ennaku 3 ng'olabira bwereere ewatali kukozesa data. GOTV channels.
Smart 24, driving business.
We are very glad that you're still tuned into Smart 24 TV. Now, despite the growing labor force, a major factor in the country's production chain, labor equity remains lacking. According to workers' leaders, COFT and NOTU, trade union deepening and labor administration restructuring need to be implemented to fix the growing labor-employer gap. In a similar regard, Southern, Eastern and East African Information Negotiations Institute has called for reconsideration of the investment code to attract inclusive growth and equity.
The National Employment Policy points out the need for decent opportunities to support socio-economic development. This hasn't, however, been implemented in light of business informality, shallow trade union penetration, for example, despite extra-primary provisions in the labor policy. In a multi-stakeholder engagement to advance labor rights, Siatini reckons labor equity as areas such as agriculture, manufacturing are highly critical, and a reconsideration of the investment code.
Some do not have contracts. Some it is word by mouth. Social security is not being remitted. People are failing to actually address their ways of conducting business in a human rights perspective. They need to bring both of those two together. And you find that our investment code has given so much preference to the foreign investors. But if properly utilized or used, there's a need to see that it is binding to protect our workers and not see to it that they are actually gaining, they are able to gain from investors coming on ground, but even the communities, that they are not violated.
The country's complicated social protection framework and the lapse in would-be crucial aspects of equitable employment have in turn been depicted as suicidal. According to the National Organization of Trade Unions, local employers are simply demolishing the labor force, more so with policy amendments. In a similar attribute, COFTU's John Okecho undermines the head for trade unions among employers.
The Employment Act now, which is being amended, it's a very good thing to amend but you don't tamper with the repealing the law. You see, once you repeal the law, there are certain things that you affect. So instead of repealing the judication, let them reform it in the way it can work out. Because the labor officers, that is the arm of government, as far as labor is concerned. Now, when you reduce it to nothing, it affects the mandate of government in making sure that they promote labor and they also supervise labor.
We have now looked at the solution, and I want to assure you, within 1 year, NSSF money will double. Because many employers were getting money and not meeting. People end on the way, money end on the way, you don't know where. So for us, we have identified all those issues. And of course, NSSF signed a memorandum of understanding even with us.
With about 90% of the country's labor force entrenched in, Director Robin Akagoye attributes weak labor administration and ineffectiveness of industrial court to address labor disputes. The Federation of Uganda Employers, meanwhile, points out business sustainability as a key factor for labor equity.
Whereas platform work is being regulated in other countries, here it is not regulated. And you're going to be stuck with your definition of an employee when you bring a platform worker who is driving a safe border within the ambit of protection. Because when you look at the commercial agreements, for example, okay, those agreements that exist between a safe rider, border rider, and a safe border company, most of the clauses there make those motorists to seem like they're actual employees. But when there's a fundamental labor rights violation, the app company is going to say, we are just partners, you're not an employee.
The uncertainty of work. Just like employees get jobs and then they exit, we have also seen employers who actually have left. They have completely left Uganda. And so meaning that they now don't risk the part of giving an employee a contract that is open-ended or a contract that is 5-year term or 6-year term. And that is also now increasingly leading to a situation where I give a fixed term contract that is only for 3 months.
The Ministry of Gender and Labour has expressed faith in the National Action Plan for Business and Human Rights to enforce decent employment and services. This has further been highlighted by criticism of the unfavorable investment incentive.
Tax waivers. What we need is a well-defined structure as far as Ministry of Labour is concerned. In all over the world, Ministry of Labour goes with you can have public service, Minister of Labour, Public Service, and Social Security, because these are just one. Now, this is a structure which will help government, first of all, to plan for labor, to put in system that can even monitor the labor market in the country, a number of employment that is there, and also creation of jobs.
Collectively, UNOTU has called for restructuring of the labor space administration to deepen labor rights. Ivan Tivenkana, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Away from that, let's shift our focus to Islamic banking. Parliament finally passed the Financial Institutions Amendment Bill 2023, which reconciled Islamic banking into financial institution laws. Still, it went ahead to synchronize the Islamic financial system in the recently amended taxes, which include excise duty, income tax, among others. Samla Hanifa reports.
Member, what he has submitted.
Before tabling the bills on the floor of Parliament, the Committee of Finance first interfaced with officials from Bank of Uganda over the issue of establishing a Central Sharia Advisory Council at Bank of Uganda, as required by the Islamic banking principles. Bank of Uganda advised the committee that from their benchmark studies, they got to learn that in over 50 Muslim countries, only 13 have an advisory council, and so Uganda can start without it.
That Uganda, as a member of the EAC, is moving towards an EAC monetary union. Okay, we actually are even trying to converge in terms of how we regulate our banking sectors, so there is equal treatment across the region. So, if others within the region that we intend to partner with as have one monetary union don't have them, I think as a starting point, let us not have this advisory council. At the beginning. And like I indicated in my presentation, there is no harm if after 4 or 5 years, let's give this a chance to happen. It's like, for an analogy, consider a case of a child who's been born and is crawling and is walking. When the child starts crawling, you do not train them to run a marathon. You give them a chance to learn how to walk.
When the bills came to the floor of Parliament, the issue of creating a Sharia Advisory Council created a controversy among legislators, with some supporting the council and others opposing it. The Speaker guided that since Bank of Uganda is just a regulatory body, the commercial banks can create their Sharia law advisory committees.
We will never, as long as our law remains as it is, legislate in that way and make the Bank of Uganda create a product. Imagine if Bank of Uganda creates a product and the people lose money. Whom will you blame? We will never. Secondly, we don't do that for conventional banking. So if we don't do that, because Bank of Uganda does not approve products for the other type of banking, which is not Islamic, won't we be discriminating?
That the law exists. We want to amend it and delete it. That's the intention of this provision. Now, Bank of Uganda appeared before the committee, Right Honorable Chair. You are speaking about a product that is unique in its nature. It's based on Sharia law. And because it's based on Sharia law, it has peculiar interpretations that in the ordinary conventional banking normal practices are not regularly found. Therefore, the framers of the law then had created just advisory, not for advisory council, and this is its composition. The chair of that advisory council is the Governor, Bank of Uganda. The secretary to it is the secretary for legal department. Supervision of bank is the member of that board, and 2 Islamic scholars to advise on the products called Islamic financing. On the face of it, it is harmful. It's not harmful. Now, what the committee has done, and the governor, the central bank when it appeared before, it did not say that forever that advisory board will never be needed. Now, what we've done as a committee is, 1, put this provision in abeyance. Because if the minister feels he doesn't want to implement it, forever he will never implement it. But if a need arises, there will not be a need to come back to Parliament to amend and reinsert the same provision. We removed the other one. Yeah.
We have one board in Bank of Uganda. We have boards in the commercial banks. Now I'm talking as a former banker for 15 years. We have boards in commercial banks. In the commercial banks that we have, this Islamic banking service is going to be one of the services, one of the products. Yes, we need to understand the thing, not just putting a perspective that, we need to be managed by the central bank. Central bank is a regulator. Commercial banks do operational.
Speaker Mong also warned all those who have been lobbied to frustrate the introduction of Islamic banking into the financial laws of Uganda.
A Islamic banking service is like any other service. Just like you have agricultural banking service, you have a number of them. Are we going to have the central bank have all those boards? Are we going to have them? Why are you frustrating? And I don't want people who are frustrating Islamic banking. I know people have been lobbied. I want to put this on record. People have been lobbied not to allow this Islamic banking go through, including myself. But we must pass it.
The House resolved to pass the financial bills synchronizing Islamic banking system as part of Uganda's financial system. The passing of Islamic banking into the financial banking system of Uganda gives hope to many Ugandans, especially those from the Muslim community who have appealed to government to introduce it for long. The bill only awaits the President's approval for commercial banks to start embracing it. Samlanifa, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, China's relationship with East Africa is bound to be further strengthened as cooperation leans towards trade, capacity building, infrastructure development, and other fields. The Chinese ambassador to Tanzania and the East African community, Her Excellency Chen Ming-jing, reveals that Beijing is highly optimistic about promoting economic growth beyond the East African bloc.
The Chinese government's $400,000 donation of vehicles will help the East African community by enhancing its ability to plan and coordinate meetings and events around the region. The 8 vehicles comprising 2 medium buses, 1 large bus, and the pickup trucks were handed over to the East African Community Secretariat headquarters today in Arusha, Tanzania, which were all funded by the Chinese government. China will continue to be a steadfast and powerful supporter of the East African community on development issues, according to Ming-jing, who also emphasized her nation's intention to expand cooperation and solidarity with the community for the benefit of both sides.
Today I'm coming here for the handing over of the 8 vehicles donated by Chinese government. That is part of the efforts for helping EAC of the capacity building. The 8 vehicles are 3 buses with 36 seats and 26 seats respectively, and 5 pickups. And we believe those vehicles can be used properly by EAC for the transportation, either for personnel or for cargoes. Even though it is for the logistic use, but I believe that will help EAC to conduct activities in an efficient way, and that is part of capacity building. And China evaluates the importance of EAC, and we think EAC is a very important sub-regional organization with the dynamic and influential functions in these countries, and we attach great importance of the relations between China and the EAC, and we will keep close contact for the future cooperation.
Receiving the buses on behalf of the East African Community Secretariat General, Honorable Dr. Peter Mathuki, the Director of Social Sectors at the East African Secretariat, Dr. Irene Saka, thanked the government of the People's Republic of China for the generous donation, noting that the handover was a demonstration of the excellent relations existing between China and the East African community. The friendly relations between China and the East African community continue to develop in depth, and pragmatic cooperation in various fields has achieved remarkable results. On an annual basis, The People's Republic of China has been supporting the East African community in capacity building programs.
As follows. On an annual basis, the People's Republic of China has been supporting EAC in capacity building program. Secondly, last year, China donated funds to the EAC to support EAC development projects and supported 4th EAC Youth Leadership Summit. Thirdly, China has also continued to make substantial contributions in the region, especially in the areas of infrastructure development projects geared towards promotion of inter-East African community trade. And also, the Chinese government has expressed their commitment in supporting peace building and good governance initiatives in the region. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I believe this handover of vehicles will ease logistical issues relating to transportation and ultimately improve the overall efficiency, functioning of organs of the community.
Last year, China donated funds to East African community to support the region's development projects and the 4th East African Community Youth Leadership Summit. China has also continued to make substantial contributions in the region, especially in the areas of infrastructure development projects geared towards promotion of the intra-East African trade. Andrew Barije, Samo Chirimunde, Smart 24, Business Today, Arusha, Tanzania.
Interesting. Government's plan to implement digital number plates has been checked by Parliament. The move, which would have required every vehicle owner to spend approximately 735,000 shillings to replace the current number plates, is bound to lag a little longer, as the Speaker of Parliament, Anita Among, revealed that the government will first harmonize both minority and the majority reports of the Committee on Physical Infrastructure. Peso Mumbele reports.
The Uganda Revenue Authority was to begin implementing the issuance of new digital number plates effective July 1st, 2023. There was going to be new series of registration numbers for all vehicles, plus the installation of tracking devices, and all vehicle owners were going to pay 730,000 for the replacement of the number plates. The Honorable Balimwezo Ronald Suga, the Member of Parliament Nakawa East, proposed Parliament to first hold this process, stating that they must first reconcile the minority and majority reports from the Committee on Physical Infrastructure.
However, this Parliament came out clearly and adopted both reports, the minority and majority. Implementation is going on without harmonization. How are we doing it? Are we proceeding on well? This is a matter that Monitor has written about. Very critical issues that were raised by URA itself. There are risks that we have not looked at. Therefore, it's important, Right Honorable Speaker, to address this matter.
Before this, some stakeholders from the transport industry and legislators had raised concern over the abnormal costs of the digital number plates and the rationale of the payment gap, which they say is unfair.
Not on digital number plates, they are unfair to us or to the borders, because bearing in mind, these motorcycles are got on loan. Then, as somebody is servicing the loan, getting money to really pay for the number is really very expensive.
We are also thinking it would be a bit delayed, such that the economy can recover completely. Because at the moment we are still going through the COVID stress, the debt relief, and other things that the public is going through that are not easy. Government itself is in debt of around 7.2 trillion.
Uganda is estimated to have close to 2.4 million vehicles and more than 1.4 million motorcycles, and if each of them is registered afresh, the government would receive up to 2.8 trillion in form of revenues.
Expensive like that, very few will buy them. So it's better to be lesser so that you can get more and even more tax. But the moment you put it very expensive like that, people will dodge it.
In 2018, President Museveni issued a directive to engage a Russian company called Joint Stock Company Global Security to execute a compulsory digital surveillance of all motor vehicles and motorcycles and other vessels in Uganda using an electronically activated device fixed on the motorcycles to curb insecurity and criminality. Pedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now, the Kenyan economy faces significant headwinds as the global interest rates continue to rise. A substantial 27 billion shillings loss is expected to finance external debt amid its financial sector insurgency. The nation's financial stability has come under caution as the willing shilling is against the big dollar currencies inhabiting development initiatives.
The persistent rise in global interest rates by central banks has put pressure on Kenya's economy, which heavily relies on international borrowing to fund various projects such as infrastructure. Ultimately, Kenya now faces big costs to service external debts, attracting a significant loss of 27 billion shillings.
The taxation system is becoming negative, a negative taxation, which is not allowed when it comes to economic planning, because once it becomes negative, it means that a person will not be persuaded to continue producing or working because all the money goes to the government. And what the government should do is reduce tax to increase productivity so that they collect more taxes. That is economics, basic economics, and that is what we are looking for. Let the government understand the economics of production. We want to produce, but we don't and pay taxes. We don't want to be taxed and get discouraged from continuity of paying taxes. We appeal to the government to look into these issues where taxes are going to be lowered and the productivity will increase. The other thing, we have a body that is called KDC, that is Kenya Development Corporation, which was ICDC. The way it was formed and tailored, it was tailored to help our indigenous people to get into industries. They have become so commercial, such that even the monies that they received, which are our taxes, they charge us almost the same rate with the bank rate,
The Kenya Chamber of Commerce and Industry has in return expressed concern over the situation, highlighting the detrimental impact on businesses. The rising borrowing costs have forced many entrepreneurs to scale back operations, resulting in layoffs and a decline in overall economic output. Public investment projects have been delayed and key sectors such as manufacturing and agriculture impacted. Small and medium-sized enterprises are particularly vulnerable, grappling with high interest rates on loans and struggling to maintain competitiveness. The Central Bank of Kenya is, however, exploring measures to mitigate the impact, indicating a possible adoption of a more cautious approach to monetary policy and strike a balance between inflation and economic growth. Still, government is exploring avenues to diversify funding sources and attract foreign direct investment to alleviate the strain.
We've come to the end of our broadcast. Thank you for watching Business Today. There is more information on our social media platforms, Twitter to be specific. I'm Rona Nahabwe together with Winnie Wins and Akauch in the sign language interpretation. You have a good night.
24, driving business.
Chinayu chinyumira.